Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Michael Kelly, and joining us this evening from the Royal Australian Navy is Sub-Lieutenant Kate Millward. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, visitors will lay wreaths at the base of the pool of reflection. Please stand and join with us singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Thomas Turnbull. Joseph Henry Turnbull was born in 1893 in Murrumba, New South Wales, to William and Ellen Turnbull, the first of 9 children surviving to the born to the couple. In the early 1900s, they moved to Queensland, but by the end of the decade, Joseph's father had deserted his family. When the First World War began, the family were living in the Sunshine Coast region in a small town called Teutoburg, which had first been settled by German immigrant families around 1887 and named after Teutoburg Forest. Following the war, the town changed its name to Witter due to anti-German sentiment. Joseph Turnbull was working as a sailor and he enlisted at Enoggera on 25th of August 1914, joining the newly raised 9th Battalion. After his initial training, he embarked from Brisbane on the 24th of September aboard the transport ship Omra, bound for Egypt. On arrival in Egypt, the men assisted in setting up Mina Camp and continued their training in the desert, seeing much of Cairo and surrounds during their leave periods. In early March, the 3rd Brigade, which included the 9th Battalion, was sent to Lemnos in preparation for the Gallipoli campaign. Turnbull was amongst the first wave of men ashore at Gallipoli in the pre-dawn hours on the 25th of April and was wounded during the fighting. He was taken to the transport ship Xiang Chun for transport to Egypt, but his wounds proved mortal and he died during the voyage on the 28th of April. He was 22 years old. He was buried at sea and his name was added to the Lone Pine Memorial after the war. 3 of his brothers also served. Joseph and William with the 9th Battalion and John, who enlisted underage with the 11th Machine Gun Company. Joseph was killed in France during a raid on the 2nd of July 1916, but William and John both returned to Australia. Joseph Turnbull's name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of sacrifice and service told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Joseph Henry Turnbull, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you very much for visiting the Australian War Memorial today, and thank you.